Hey guys, I hope you're doing well today. In today's video I'll be giving you my top 5 tips on how to keep a planted fishbowl aquascape. All of these tips I'm going to be mentioning are from my past experience of keeping fishbowl aquascapes. I hope by sharing these experiences with you guys will make it easier for you to step into the world of keeping fishbowl aquascapes. These are great little planted setups to keep and I highly recommend anyone to set one up. I just want to quickly apologise for any background noise you might hear in the video. It's super hot in the UK right now and I need my fan just to stay a little bit cool while I record this video. All these tips I'm going to be mentioning are in no particular order, so let's get started. My first tip for you guys is about water changes. Water changes are probably one of the most important things you can do when you're keeping fish. They get even more important when you're keeping a planted setup. When we're doing water changes, what we're doing is removing water which contains excess nutrients or waste in it. All this excess waste and nutrients can lead to a lot of problems in setups. Excess waste is not good at all for the health of your shrimp or fish in your setup. Along with that, excess nutrients in the water column can lead to a lot of algae issues. If this does happen, algae will take full advantage of the situation. Algae has a quick growth rate, which means it can easily outcompete some of your plants for nutrients. Slower growing plants like your Java ferns or Bucephalandra Lamandau might struggle against some faster growing algae species. This is why sometimes you can see algae growing on their leaves. Green spot algae is probably the most common algae you'll see on the leaves. Let's go back to water changes again. So now that we remove the water containing the excess waste and nutrients, we need to top the bowl up with some fresh clean water. This new fresh clean water that's being added to the fish bowl will help to dilute any remaining waste or nutrients in the water column. Now with all the waste and nutrients in the water column diluted, it will make it a lot harder for algae to grow. Overall, this means algae will have less nutrients to take advantage of. If you're ever having algae problems in the planted tank or regular fish tank, water changes are a really good starting point to tackle the problem. Currently for my fishbowl aquascape, I like to change the water once a week. I take about 25% of the water out, and then fill the bowl back up with fresh clean water. Sometimes I do end up missing a water change, so what I can do is I take 50% of the water out and then re-top it up with fresh clean water afterwards. It's basically the same as changing the water once a week, but instead of once a week you do it once every 2 weeks. But the main point I'm just trying to get at is that water changes are really important for aquascape bowls. They really do just help to keep the whole system balanced and in check. Lighting is super important for keeping plants. It's the thing that allows your plants to photosynthesize and grow. So by getting the lighting right the first time, you'll help to prevent yourself from causing any long-term issues. A good area to start on is the photo period you'll be using. An average photo period for most planted tanks is between 8 to 10 hours a day. This will give your plants plenty of time to photosynthesize throughout the day and use all the nutrients that are available in the water column. But you can experiment with this time period a little bit. For example, in my previous fishbowl aquascape I had a lot of slow growing plants in that setup. These plants are a lot less demanding, so they don't need as much light as other plants. Because of this, I decided to reduce the photo period to about 6 hours a day. Before, when my photo period was 8 hours, I was just getting so much algae growth it was crazy. When I reduced my photo period, it helped massively. Along with that, I was also able to change the intensity of the light a little bit. I'm using a desk lamp with a 40 watt LED bulb. There isn't a dimmer feature available on this desk lamp, so the only way to change the intensity of the light was to move it further away from the surface of the water, or if I wanted to increase the lighting, I would have to put it close to the surface of the water. In my case, I had to move the light further away from the surface of the water. This helped to reduce the intensity of the light hitting the whole bowl. This is also a really good first step to reduce any algae issues in a fish bowl. One big main cause of an algae outbreak is the imbalance in lighting. Once you get this imbalance fixed, it makes things a lot easier in the long term. It may take a while and a lot of experimenting, but once you get the right lighting conditions, it makes everything so much easier. You will start to see so much amazing healthy plant growth, it's amazing to see. Your choice in substrate will always be an important thing in an aquascape in my opinion. A lot of plants will get their nutrients from their root systems. By providing the plants with a nutritious substrate, it will make their growth a lot easier. There's so many different options out there of substrate you can use for your aquascape. You could use pea gravel supplemented with root tabs. This type of substrate will give the plants a little bit of nutrients for their root systems. Also, this kind of substrate is relatively cheap, so if you're aquascaping on a budget, this might be a good option for you. However, in my planted setups, I like to use an aquasoil based substrate. These kinds of substrates are packed with nutrients, which is really good for root feeding plants. Lots of plants like Crypts and many carpeting plants use their root systems to get nutrients so they can grow. Using an aquasoil based substrate will make things a lot easier, especially in the first few weeks of setting up your planted tank. In the beginning, the plants will start to take up a lot of nutrients for their root systems. When plants are planted into a new aquascape, it's important they get a really good start. The better growth you get earlier on, the more likely you can get good healthy mature growth later on in the aquascape's life cycle. I've used 2 different types of aquasoil based substrates before. I have used the ADA Aquasoil Amazonia and I have also used a Tropical Aquasoil too. The ADA substrate is a really good high quality substrate to use, but there is a major disadvantage of using this substrate. In the first few weeks, this substrate will start to leach out lots of ammonia into the water column. In a small setup like this fish bowl, it can swing the water parameters all over the place. To fix this problem in the short term, you would have to do a lot of water changes to make sure the ammonia stays at 0. So instead, for my fish bowl setups, I decided to use a Tropical Aquasoil. In my opinion, I think this substrate is just as good as the ADA Aquasoil Amazonia. From my previous and my current fishbowl aquascapes, I've noticed that I got really good growth using this substrate. Overall, it has all the benefits of using the ADA Aquasoil Amazonia, but it doesn't leach any ammonia into the water column. In my current setup, I'm using the normal version and the powdered version. The powdered version has a smaller granule size. This allows plants with smaller, more delicate root systems to more easily cling onto the substrate. This will also help to get the plant more established when it's first planted into your aquascape. Another tip I recently discovered was to plant your fish bowl as densely as you can from the start. I've recently rescaped my fish bowl and I found this tip's been working really well for me. When I was planning the rescape of this fish bowl, I kept this tip in the back of my head. When I went to buy the plants for the rescape, I bought more than I usually do. In many of my aquascapes I didn't plant as densely as I wanted to. This is probably down to me just not knowing how many plants I will get out of a single pot. From now on, whenever I need to do a rescape, I'm going to buy more plants than I actually need. By doing this, I'll be able to get a really densely planted aquascape from the start. One of the many great benefits of having a really densely planted fish bowl from the side is that it can help keep algae at bay. This increase in plant matter in the fish bowl means there will be less excess nutrients in the water column. With less excess nutrients in the water column, this means algae will be starved of nutrients to grow. This in theory means you should be getting a lot less algae growing in your fish bowl aquascapes. Plants by their nature will outcompete algae for nutrients. So the more plants are in the aquascape, it means there's more things that algae has to compete with for nutrients to grow. Also, by having a more densely planted aquascape from the start, it can make the whole thing look more established than it actually is. It will also help to give your fish and shrimp a lot of hiding places too. This will be really good for them too, as it will help to reduce any stress they might feel when you're adding them back to the fish bowl. In the end, I think it's more beneficial if you buy a few extra more plants to fill your fish bowl up with. Plant selection is a really important thing when setting up a new aquascape. The types of plants you use in the fish bowl setup is even more important in my opinion. Sometimes fish bowl aquascapes can limit your choice of plants. Most likely there's going to be no pressurized CO2 in the setup, so you might have to rule out some plants that need CO2 to grow. Lower demanding plants like your Java fern, Bucephalandra and Anubias don't require a lot of nutrients to grow. This means they have a slower growth rate compared to other plants, whereas your medium to quite high demanding plants need quite a lot of nutrients to grow. These more demanding plants like your stem plants, floating plants and carping plants grow a lot quicker, and since they are so nutrient demanding, they will use many excess nutrients that are in the water column quicker. This means that these types of plants will outcompete the algae for nutrients. If the algae has no nutrients available, it won't be able to grow. Here are some of my suggestions for easy plants to grow in a fish bowl aquascape. For foreground plants, I like to use Helanthium, tenellum green or hairgrass. These are super easy carpeting plants to grow. In the mid-ground, crypts are always a really good choice. Crypts aren't usually that demanding, but they can be a bit slow growing. For the background, I think stem plants are a really good choice. Limnophila will be a really good choice. It grows super quick and it looks amazing too. I really recommend this plant to anyone. So these being my 5 tips on how to keep a planted fish bowl. I hope you guys learned something new from this video. Most of these tips have come from my experience of keeping fish bowl aquascapes. They can be a little bit difficult to get right sometimes, but when you can get it right, the results can be amazing. Do you guys have any tips on keeping a planted fish bowl aquascape? Let me know in the comments below. It'll be great if I can learn something from your guys' experiences too. If you did enjoy this video, can you please give it a like, and if you want to see more videos, please subscribe to the channel. I just quickly want to let you guys know that I got a YouTube membership option now, along with a Patreon too. So if you want to help the channel, become a member and you'll get to see your name at the end of the video. I hope you all have a great day.